we shall be hearing tonight. All right. So we are in chapter 2 of the original edition. Everybody here has it. Would you like one, Patrick?
No.
Okay. You're okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're in chapter 2, section. I think it's still section 1. Okay. And okay, so yeah. Oh, so funny. Ego is just all over tonight. Okay, chapter 2. Here we go. All right. So we're starting the section. I mean, the place where. Okay, let me find this once again. Okay, so last week we talked about the Garden of Eden. That was interesting. It was saying the Garden of Eden was not a literal garden, go figure. It was a state of mind. It was a metaphor for a state of mind of, let's see what that sentence said. It was beautiful. It was a state of mind where there was no lack, no need. No lack, no need. That's what the Garden of Eden was. And then he talked about how and what was the fall, this separation, the detour into fear. And he was saying that there were 3 things that were entailed in our separation from God, or our fall, or the metaphorical or existential exiting of the Garden of Eden, the state of mind where there was no lack and no need. Can you imagine a state of mind of no lack and no need? Wow, that's the garden. That's the Garden of Eden, and that's our natural state. And he made sure to correct the mistake that God kicked us out of that. That was a total projection. But what did happen was, he says, first thing that happened was we developed and accepted the belief that what God created could be changed by us. That was our first mistake that led us out of the garden. What God created as reality and so for everyone in all space and time, I could change if I felt like it. And so now I say, oh, I don't like everybody having everything all the time. And so I would like there to be some lack. Oh, and now I think it's happened. That was the first way that I exited the garden. And the second one was that I believed that what was perfect could be rendered imperfect or wanting. That was the second belief that I adopted that scooted me out of the Garden of Eden. That what was perfect, again, I could make lacking. That I could make lack out of something that was perfect, meaning complete, meaning lacking nothing. The third belief was that I believed that I could distort what God created, and including myself. I can make myself what I am. I make myself who I am. I decide what my reality is, right? That was my third mistake that had me exiting the garden, okay? And the fourth one was that I can create myself, and the direction of my creation is up to me, okay? I'm the one who establishes my reality. I decide what my reality is. I created myself. Okay? And that's what we think. I'm a self-made man. I'm a self-made person. I made myself. Okay? These are the beliefs that literally were, in essence, the separation or the detour into fear, the fall. Okay? So the fall is not at all being kicked out of the garden because we wanted knowledge. It was because we usurped knowledge and decided it's up to me to say what's so. It's up to me to establish your reality. It's up to me to establish my reality. It's up to me. And if I say that I want lack to be there, then so it is. And if I see lack there and I want lack to be there and sin to be there, then so it is. And as I say it, I can just feel the arrogance dripping off of that. But he says that that's exactly, not only is that the beliefs that made the detour into fear and made us leave the garden, it's also the very thing that makes us leave the holy now, where there is no lack, and there is no pain, and there is no fear, and there is no separation. It's the same thing that makes me leave the truth now and go into lack and need and grievance and anger. So at the core of every suffering is, there I am, thinking it's up to me to establish reality for me and others. That's what's going to be at the core of my suffering. So if I want to backtrack and go back to the point where I made the decision to leave heaven, which means no lack, and go into lack, and that's where I have to go to. I'm going to backpedal all the way back to where I decided that reality was mine to choose from. And I was going to decide what was so, even if it hurt, right? That's where it goes back to. Okay, so then it says, you'll see the paragraph that starts, these related distortions. It's after the 4 beliefs that were the detour to fear, and then it goes, these related distortions. Does everybody see where that is? Mm-hmm. These related distortions, beliefs that I just mentioned, they represent a picture of what actually occurred in the separation. That's how it happened. You ever had that question, well, how did it happen? We were in God, we were in heaven, we were in reality, and then we were not. What happened? How did it happen? That's how it happened. It was a series of beliefs that we accepted and didn't say, that's crazy. The tiny mad idea crossed our mind that we forgot to laugh at, that's them. Okay? And that's still what's happening to this day that makes us feel like we've been locked out of the Garden of Eden, state of no lack, no need. So he says, these related beliefs represent a picture of what actually occurs in separation. Now, none of this existed before, and nor does any of this, the separation, actually exist now. The world was made as a, quote, natural grand division. What was it? The world was a projecting outward of God. Oh. So how did the separation occur? How did it happen that I went from heaven, no lack, to here? I projected God outward. I projected God outward. I said, God's out there. Okay? That's how I made a natural grand division that then became the world. Isn't that interesting? The author asks Helen to look up the word the world in the dictionary. And she does. She looks up the word world, and in the dictionary it says a natural grand division. And so the teacher's like, well, yes, that's exactly what it is. Okay, so how are we projecting God outward now? Okay, that's where the world and this seeming division came from. And he says, and that is why everything that God created is like him. See, projection as undertaken by God is very similar to the kind of inner radiance which the children of the Father inherit from him. He says, it's important to note that the term project outward necessarily implies that the real source of projection is internal. And this is as true of the Son, that's us, as of the Father. The world, in the original connotation of the term, included both the proper creation of man by God and the proper creation by man in his right mind. The latter, the proper creation by man in his right mind, required the endowment of man by God with free will, because all loving creation is freely given. Nothing in these statements implies any sort of level involvement, or in fact anything except one continuous line of creation in which all aspects are of the same order. Okay, so creation, as undertaken by God, includes our creations. that we create just along the same lines as our creation. So creation is not just something where God extends us, his souls. It also includes our being like him and extending like he does. And then it said how God creates. How God creates. And how God creates is with an inner radiance. Isn't that nice? That the way God creates is an inner radiance. And he goes, and that's the way you create too. Creation is a way of radiating out something from within. That's how we create. It's the same way that God created us. And that is what ensures that creation continues in this one continuous line. God creates us, and we create in the manner of our creation, and so on. Okay? So the creation includes us. Okay? So then it says, when the so-called lies of the serpent were introduced, remember the good old lies of the serpent? Yeah. Does anybody know what the serpent said? What the serpent said? Anyone? Didn't the serpent say something like, "You're naked"? I don't know. I'm just curious.
That serpent.
What'd you say?
I didn't know what serpent you were talking about.
Oh, the biblical serpent in the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
Yeah, that serpent.
And you say eat the apple.
And then when they ate the apple, then they knew they were
It was
naked.
the apple or something of the tree from the tree of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eat the apple.
Oh, so the serpent said, "Eat the apple."
Then they ate the apple, and then they knew they were
And
naked.
then who was it who said it was the girl's fault?
The man.
Die, probably.
Well, I'm glad y'all said it. I was hoping y'all would say that. No, was it
God that
God?
said it was the woman's fault.
God said it was
Yes.
Eve's fault. So,
Yes, but the
so
woman's punishments took up 2 pages.
oh yes.
The serpent was about
What a
2
surprise.
lines, and that was very minimal.
What was the
That
man's
was
punishment? I don't remember the man getting any
Yeah,
punishment.
Oh, he did.
What he lost a rib or something?
Yes. So
Poor baby.
He did get some punishment, but it wasn't minimal.
He did, yeah, but look, nobody can
Eve got
remember
2
that.
pages?
Yeah, it wasn't 2 pages.
Well, maybe not
long
2
punishment.
pages, but it was the most.
Right. Okay.
That's
All
gotta take
right.
responsibility, you know.
Oh, but God is love.
That's right.
Okay, so, all right. So all we know now is some lies went down in that old story. Okay, there were some lies. He goes, and he's saying that the serpent was lying. Wow, okay, that's pretty radical. So the lies of the serpent, he says when the so-called lies of the serpent were introduced, they were specifically called lies because what the serpent said wasn't true. Now, when man listened, I guess that would be Adam and Eve, when they listened to the serpent, all they heard was untruth. And you do not have to continue to believe what is not true unless you choose to do so, okay? Same thing, you can put ego in there. When you listen to your ego, when you listen to the fearful, angry, limited, lacking, grievance-holding voice, all you are hearing is untruth. Whenever you listen to your ego, whenever you listen to the ego, all you hear is untruth. But here is the truth. You do not have to continue to believe what is not true unless you choose to do so. All right, that's good. I don't have to listen to the lies of the serpent. I don't have to listen to the ego. There's a radical idea. I don't have to listen to my ego. I thought I had to. I thought when my ego started when my ego started talking, well, I just had to sit there and take it and listen, right? You mean to tell me that I could say, no, thank you? Really? Are you sure? Well, apparently I must want to. I must just want to, okay? So, good thing to remember, I don't have to listen. Can you imagine your ego's telling you some stuff and the more you listen, the angrier you get, the sadder you get, the more depressed you get, the more you listen, the worse you feel. Can you imagine if one time you were like, oh, I don't have to listen to this? because all I'm hearing is untruth. Can you imagine what would happen in that moment? Wow. First of all, you'd get a miracle of peace and joy and love and abundance. And number two, this feeling of empowerment you would get. Because what would happen? When you say no to listening to the lies of the ego, what happens is it's an automatic invitation to the voice of truth. So when you go no to the ego, it's immediately saying, I want to hear the truth. Wow. I just forget sometimes that I have a choice. You know, and the Course says the reason I forget that I have a choice as to whether to listen to that angry, grievance, mongering voice is because I have an imagined need to attack. And that's, of course, says if it wasn't for your imagined need to attack, then when the ego speaks, you'd be like, I know what happens if I listen to you, buddy. No thanks. Right? But I have an imagined need to attack. I have an attack appetite. I have an attack addiction. Right?
To attack ourselves?
Yeah, just to attack, yeah. To attack ourselves, to attack others. Same thing as saying I have an imagined need to judge. Right? Because it's what my ego lives on. It's ego food. And my ego believes it needs judgment and attack just like my body seems to need food. Wow. That's how, and as hungry as I get for food every day, that's how hungry and more my ego is for judgment. That's what it lives on. It literally lives by judgment. Okay? So if it wasn't for that judgment appetite, that imagined need to attack, then I would recognize all things that the ego says for exactly what it was, and I would just merely step aside. All right. Then he says, don't forget, you do not have to continue to believe what is not true, what your ego tells you, unless you choose to do so. And that's because all of your miscreations, which means your misperceptions, all your misperceptions can literally disappear in the twinkling of an eye. What? Every one of my misperceptions, which means my ego distortions, my grievances, my pain, my suffering, my sadness, my depression, my sickness, all can disappear in the twinkling of an eye, like a blink, blink. Why is that? That's because all of my misperceptions are merely visual misperceptions. And that's in the original, but not in the edited. That all of my ego manifestations can disappear in the twinkling of an eye because they are merely visual misperceptions. Everything I'm upset about, everything I am upset about, afraid of, angry of, sick about, depressed about, is a visual misperception. Wow, what does that mean? I mean, to me, that's like, well, you're seeing what's not there. You're seeing what's not there. It's probably an auditory misperception or hallucination too. You're hearing what wasn't said. You're seeing what's not there. And if all that you're suffering with is just a visual misperception, then truly, of course, it can disappear in the twinkling of an eye. Because as soon as you change your mind about what you want to see, then it's gone. Wow. Well, that's good to know. Wow. All right. Then he says, man's spiritual eye can sleep, but a sleeping eye can still see. Isn't that interesting? That's also in the edited, but not the, it's in the original, but not the edited. Man's spiritual eye can sleep, but a sleeping eye can still see. How do you know that? Well, what is seen in dreams seems to be very real. Aha, isn't that interesting? A sleeping eye, man's spiritual eye can sleep, but a sleeping eye can still see. How do you know? Because of your dreams. There you are sleeping, but yet you're seeing a lot. Right? So, just like that. I am sleeping. My spiritual eye is sleeping. My spiritual eye, interesting, is sleeping. But we know sleeping eyes can still see. We know because of all the stuff we see when we're dreaming, which is a lot of stuff. Okay, now he says, the Bible mentions that, quote, a deep sleep fell upon Adam, and, unquote, and nowhere is there any reference to his waking up. I wonder who that Adam is. Let's see, who could that be that the Bible says the deep sleep fell upon, and then there's no reference to him waking up? Who could that be? That's us, you know. And he says, and the history of man in the world as we see it has not yet been marked by any genuine or comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. That's obvious. That's exactly what's missing here.
Can you read that again?
Yeah. The history of man in the world as we see it, that's in the original but not the edited, has not yet been marked by any genuine or comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. In other words, we haven't experienced that genuine means what? Comprehensive, where we all, like, where as a world or as a planet, we all went, oh, I see the light, I get it. Yeah. We little pockets of it, like right here, like right there, little pockets of reawakening, but not a comprehensive one where we wake up together as a planet. Okay? Right.
So, who did the editing? Just as a side note.
Ken and Helen did the editing.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay.
They say they did it under the direction of, the teacher of the course.
Okay.
So, but there was so much in it that was not in the edited that I wanted to teach the first 4 chapters so that I could get it and learn it. It's just beautiful to me. Okay. So, now, this comprehensive reawakening or rebirth of the world, he says, this is impossible as long as man projects in the spirit of miscreation. Okay? As long as we misproject, right? And project what? Oh, God outward. Things like that. As long as we project happiness outward, as long as we project God outward, as long as we project ourselves outward, as long as we keep projecting, it's not me, that's not me, they're not me, God's not me, God's out there, I'm out there, they're out there. As long as we keep projecting, then the world can't wake up. That comprehensive reawakening of the world, it can't happen while we are misprojecting. Wow. And every time I think that I'm seeing something out there that I didn't put there, that isn't a reflection of a thought of mine, I am misprojecting. And I'm keeping my own comprehensive reawakening or rebirth away, and the world's. And he says, but it still remains within you to project as God projected his own spirit to you. In reality, this is your only choice, because your free will was given you for your own joy in creating the perfect. Okay. So it still remains within you to extend and create like God did. It's like our idea was to project and see everything that's within us outside. Okay? But it still remains within you to extend like God did, which is what? An internal recognition of unity, of oneness. Like that's how God created. And that is still available to us. All right. Now, all fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that you have the ability to usurp the power of God. Okay, so that's important because that is telling you where all your fear comes from. If you were to trace your fears back all the way to the beginning, that's what you're going to find. I think that I have the ability to be God and to usurp the power of God and to make up what is so about you and about me and about them and about God and about everything. You know, that my belief that I have that ability, that's where my fear comes from. Wow. Because for sure, if reality is up to me to decide, then I should be terrified. Absolutely. You know, as inconsistent as I am, as judgmental as I am, and can be, as confused as I am half the time, as angry as I am at times, as guilty as I feel sometimes, and I'm going to believe that it's up to me, that reality is as I see it, that's scary. That's where your fear comes from. So the opposite of that would have to mean if I realized that I don't have the ability to usurp creation, reality is not up to me. Ain't nothing real up to me to decide. I don't need to decide about that. I don't need to decide about me. I don't need to decide about them. I don't need to decide about this. Now that attitude is going to be the end of my fear. I don't need to decide whether I'm good enough anymore. And I don't need to decide whether you are good enough anymore. I don't need to decide what you mean anymore, or they mean, or this means. I don't even have to decide what I mean anymore. There's my peace. It is not up to me to decide reality. And so now I don't have to be afraid. Because really, it's handled. God created reality. He created it as He would have it be, meaning perfect, lacking nothing, untouchable, can't be destroyed. So what's there to fear? Unless you have the power to change all that. Wow, isn't that interesting? All fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that you have the ability to usurp the power of God. Wow. So what if you were to identify right now something that you've been feeling afraid about today? Okay, so when you bring that to mind, what is it that I'm feeling afraid of right now? Or what is it I've been feeling afraid of today? And then tell yourself, I'm afraid because I am telling myself, I'm believing that it's up to me to decide what's so in this situation. And I'm believing that I have done so. That it is the way I thought it was. And then go from there and say, I do not have the power to usurp the power. I don't have the ability to usurp the power of God. I am not the author of reality. I am not the author of reality. What is, God established, period. Okay, that's what you want to tell yourself about whatever it is that you are feeling afraid of right now. Wow, interesting. The Course tells us to do very different things about our fear than we hear in the world. When do you ever hear the world tell you to do that if you're afraid? All right. So then it says, it can only be emphasized that you neither can nor have been able to usurp the power of God and make reality. And in fact, in this fact lies the real justification for your escape from fear. Wow, that's your escape from fear. I don't have the power to change reality or make up reality. What is so, apart from my projections here. Then he says, this escape from fear is brought about by your acceptance of the atonement, which is the plan for the correction of fear, which places you in a position to realize that your own errors never really occurred. Wow. Okay. Would you like an escape from the fear that you're experiencing today? Okay. So, when you realize that you haven't usurped the power of God, you haven't changed anything just because you were mad, just because you were sad, just because you didn't see it right, you didn't change anything, you didn't do anything, you didn't do anything. He says, and when you accept that fact, it puts you in a position to accept the atonement. What's the atonement? The atonement is the understanding that, what? That your, what does he say? That your errors never really occurred. Wow. Isn't that deep? There's your escape from fear. What you think you did, you didn't do. What you think you did, you didn't do. What you think happened, that you made happen, it didn't really happen. It's the same as saying that your ego never really occurred. So, what is it that I'm feeling afraid of? It's what I think I've done. It's what I think I've done. The mistakes that I've made, the anger that I projected, the guilt that I projected, the things that I did out of anger, right? I feel bad about my mistakes. I feel bad about what I've done because I think I did something. I think I did something means I think I changed something. If I knew that when I had that angry thought about somebody, when I had that unloving thought about myself, that nothing happened, because I can't change reality, that is not up to me, I don't have that power, then I realized I didn't do anything. I didn't change them. I didn't affect anything. And so, I don't need to feel afraid and I don't need to feel guilty. Because what? Because my errors never really occurred. Meaning, nothing happened. Whew! Okay, whoa. Okay, that thing that I did out of anger, that thing that I did, I mean, those things, you know, because aren't we active like crazy when we're the most insane? Have you noticed? When you're most angry, the most hurt, the most afraid, we tend to be the most active. Have you noticed? I got to do something. I got to fix something, and I got to let somebody know how I feel. I got to let them know what they did to me. Right? Or what they didn't do to me. Okay? So, he's like, and he's saying that you're afraid because you think that when you were in that state and you were so active in your anger and fear and depression and hatred, you think you actually did something. And that's why you feel afraid and that's why you feel guilty. Because you think something happened. But when you realize that, hey, you can't change reality. You can't change eternal love. You can't change the soul that God created into something that, you know, is worthy of your attack. You can't do that. Why? Because you can't usurp the power of God. You're not God. You can create like God, but you can't change what God created to be perfect, to be sinless, and to be eternal. You can't change that. What arrogance. And that's why he says that guilt is arrogance. He says guilt is the epitome of arrogance. What? And we thought that guilt was the epitome of humility, didn't we? He goes, guilt is the epitome of arrogance because it's you saying that what you believe is more true than what God created. What I am seeing, what I did, has changed reality, meaning I'm more powerful than God. That what I believe is more true than what God said. He said that's what guilt is. He goes a step further, he goes, guilt is blasphemy. Isn't that deep? It's the exact opposite of what we all learned collectively as a world. We all learned that guilt, to feel guilty is humility. It's humility. It's humbling yourself before God. It's making God like you better. It's making God give you a break. If I feel guilty enough and shameful enough, God will be like, all right, she's suffered enough. Give her a break. That's what the Course says that we believe about guilt and humility. He says, guilt, to believe that what you think or what you think you've done to change reality is more true than what God created, that's arrogance. That's arrogance. And true humility goes something like this. I am so glad that I am not the author of that person's reality. And I'm so glad that I'm not the author of my reality. And I'm so relieved that all the angry, mean, judgmental things I thought about them and me never occurred. Nothing happened. Not a thing happened. That person is still exactly as God created them. And I am still exactly as God created me. Perfect, innocent, lovable, loving, period. He says that's the atonement. That's the atonement. Where you go, oh, nothing that I did, my errors never really happened. I didn't change anything. Because I can't. I'm not the author of everything. That is the atonement. That is where your errors are corrected. And isn't it funny that your errors being corrected didn't happen through being punished? Look at those errors. Come here, I'm going to rub your nose in your errors. I'm going to itemize your errors and I'll rub your nose in them like a dog. Maybe you won't make those errors again. It's not like that. The atonement is the correction of your errors, and the correction of your errors happens like this. Don't worry, honey. They never really happened. What? What are you smoking? What do you mean my errors never really happened? But you know, like we learn that correction of our egos happens by having our egos itemized, detailed, and then punished for them. And he goes, no, that's not how they're corrected. And that's not how all the effects are corrected. It's just realizing that what you thought you did and felt guilty and afraid about never happened. You didn't do anything. You haven't changed a thing. That's all. You just having some misperceptions that you have the power to usurp the power of God and decide how things are. Wow. Now that's true humility. And that's how your errors get corrected. So, do you have any errors tonight that you would like to realize never really occurred? I would like to realize that what occurred before I came in here never really occurred. Yeah, that's how fresh that is for me. Oh, good. What happened right before I got in here never really occurred. Right on. That's good. Okay. That's the kind of correction I'm looking for. All right. Any questions about that? How does it feel to hear that your errors never really occurred? How's that feel? Is there anybody that goes like, yes, but? Is there anybody of you that feels relief?
It feels really good in theory.
Yes, and yes, feeling good. It feels good in theory. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and I see the release that I could have in this moment. But it makes sense. It's logical. It is. It's not just like, oh, that would be nice, but it is logical. How is it logical? Look, since you're not the author of reality, do you really have the power to establish what reality is? Just because you're in a bad mood.
It seems so real.
I know, doesn't it? It seems so real. It seems so real. Until you have a holy instant where it literally disappears in the twinkling of an eye. You're like mad as hell. In 1 second, and then you like have a correct thought, and then it's gone. And you can't even remember what you're upset about. And then you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't so real. After a few times of it disappearing in the twinkling of an eye, after it happens like that a few times, you're like, well, I don't know, maybe this isn't so real. Maybe I'll wait a little longer to attack. Maybe I'll be quiet a few more minutes than usual before I attack and tell somebody about their reality as I see it in the moment. Because I'm doing them a favor. To the ego, it is kind and right and good to point out the errors of other people's ego and correct it for them. That is kind and right and good to the ego. That's which keeps them going. The way that Holy Spirit corrects is to say, you know what? What you're feeling guilty about, the mistakes, that it never really happened. They didn't occur. You can't change eternal love. You can't change reality. You can't change their reality. You can't change yours. Did you have a question, or are you just moving your arms? Okay. You're just moving your arms. All right. Okay. I like that one. That was beautiful. That's what I needed tonight. That was my take home. Me saying, that's your escape from fear. Isn't that nice? So listen, whatever it is that I'm believing about myself, about the bad changes I've done to myself, you know how I've made myself poor, I've made myself sick, I've made myself unlovable, I've made myself not loving, all the things that I tell myself I've done to myself, all those bad decisions I made. If I will realize that I did not change myself and I still remain as God created me, powerful, connected, eternally resourceful, immortal, loving, lovable, where's my fear? I didn't change myself. I know, just because I had a bad day yesterday, just because I had a bad afternoon, I didn't change myself at all. I just had some misperceptions. And nothing's changed. I'm still as I was created by God. And I can accept that in any moment that I choose, if I want. And all of that bad day, and all that I tell myself about the bad day, can literally disappear in the twinkling of an eye, if I want. Yeah, right. That's just too easy. You know I'm too guilty to have it that easy. Gotta be punished a little bit. All right. So, then he says, when the, quote, deep sleep fell upon Adam, then Adam was in a condition to experience nightmares because he was asleep. When do you experience nightmares? When you're asleep. Now, if a light is suddenly turned on while someone is dreaming a fearful dream, that person, that dreamer, may initially interpret the light itself as part of his own dream and be afraid of the light. You ever notice, have you ever experienced that? You're having a nightmare and someone turns on the light and you go, ah! You initially interpret that light coming on in the room as a nightmare. I mean, it's part of your nightmare, but it actually is what wakes you up from the nightmare. But he says, however, when the dreamer, the person sleeping, awakens, the light is correctly perceived as the release from the nightmare, which is no longer accorded reality. Nice. So that's what's happening with us, all right? We who were sleeping are experiencing, we who are sleeping are experiencing nightmares, okay? And here's what's happening. The light is being suddenly turned on, a la Course in Miracles, or whatever, or however. And we are in the moment interpreting the light that's been turned on, the Course, as part of our nightmare. Isn't that interesting? Have you ever interpreted the Course as part of your nightmare? Yeah, I'll never get this damn book. Screw you, Course. I'll never get that. It's just a tease. It's just a big tease. I'll never get there. But now, I know it and I'll just feel bad about it forever. At least before the Course, I didn't know how asleep I was. Thanks a lot, Course. Right? And you know that we're interpreting the light that's been turned on while we're sleeping. You know we're interpreting as part of our nightmare. How do you know? Because we still resist it. And we still use it to judge ourselves as not good enough. Or we just resist it altogether. Even though it's nothing but loving. And nothing but saying, this is how you be released from fear. You deserve release from fear. You deserve to be released from your nightmares. Nothing happened. Stop feeling guilty. Stop feeling afraid. Nothing happened. And what do? We're like, right? Metaphorically speaking, to the Course. Is that graphic enough? Okay. Don't make me drool to make the point.
We do it one more time.
Yeah.
See, all those acting classes just paid off when I was a kid. I didn't realize I was being trained to be a Course teacher. And so I could act out the ego. What do you do, everybody? Oh, I act out the ego. It's very fun. It's very easy.
It feels almost natural.
And yeah, it feels very natural, as a matter of fact. Yes, I just be myself. And I figure if I just talk about my own ego and act out my own ego, then I can actually get away with teaching the Course and not get assassinated. That's my plan. There you have it. I'm just talking about me. I'm not talking, no, baby, I'm just talking about me. I'm asleep, having nightmares about all the ways that I've changed and distorted and demented and hurt and attacked reality. See how bad I am? Bad. I'm bad. I have usurped the power of God and changed creation from something beautiful to something ugly just because of what I did today. Right? And that's my nightmares. That's my nightmares. All my fear and guilt about what I think I've done to change reality, as if I'm the author of reality, as if I'm the author of myself. Okay? And a light has been turned on while I'm sitting here struggling and suffering and feeling guilty and feeling afraid and angry all the time. And a light has been turned on. For me, it was A Course in Miracles. But I'm initially interpreting the light that's been turned on as part of my nightmare, and I'm resisting it. I'm fighting it. Okay? Then he says, when I wake up, though, then the light, meaning the truth, is correctly perceived as the release from my nightmare. And then I'm released from my nightmare when it is no longer accorded reality. I'm released from this nightmare that I'm experiencing tonight. Yeah, I had a little nightmare chase me right on into class tonight. And I am released from the nightmare when it's no longer accorded reality. So I go like this. When I heard this, I was like, oh, and nothing happened. Not a thing. Not a thing. Their perception of me didn't change anything, and my perception of them didn't change anything, and my perception of myself hasn't changed anything. Nothing has happened. Now I am released from my nightmare. Nice. I like that. All right. I love being released from nightmares. All right. Any questions or comments before we go on? Isn't it good to hear that what you were suffering from before you walked in here never happened? It never occurred. And the crowd goes crazy. Yes, it's so wonderful to realize that the thing I was suffering from today never occurred. Yes.
It sounds like
The
something.
Broncos didn't lose there?
Yeah, right. Yes, thank you. Nice application. You telling me the Broncos didn't lose the Super Bowl last night?
It was kind of a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
Yes.
It was indeed a shared nightmare last night, wasn't it? For all of us who were totally believing in the illusion that is, it matters what happens in the Super Bowl. And I know I was deceived for a little bit. Then I finally was like, brr. Okay. What?
Did that just happen?
Did that just happen? Did I just get caught up and actually care? And then suffer? For nothing. Okay.
Was there a Broncos game?
What'd you say?
Was there a Broncos game?
Yes, that's right. Yes, okay. That was a great lesson in thinking that something happened and suffering for it. Okay. All right. Are you guys ready to go on? You ready to hear about what else didn't happen? All right. It is quite apparent that this release from your nightmares does not depend on the kind of so-called knowledge, which is nothing more than deceiving lies. Okay, so you're being released from your nightmare. It does not depend on what you know about it. I know that happened. I know they did that. I know I did that. Right? It does not. It just says that doesn't depend on the kind of knowledge which is nothing more than deceiving lies. The knowledge which illuminates rather than obscures is the knowledge which not only sets you free, but also shows you clearly that you are free. So when you're released from this nightmare, you know which one I'm talking about. When you're released from it, the knowledge that sets you free from what you're suffering from right now is not something that goes, poof, you're free. It's something that when it dawns on you, you go, oh, I am free. Right? So it's not like it sets you free, it shows you already are free. Same thing as going, oh, nothing happened. So it doesn't go about trying to fix the problem. It just shows you that your problem never occurred, your error never occurred. Just like when you are in a nightmare and you wake up from the nightmare, nobody came in there and attacked your nightmare. They just turned on a light. Flick, and then it's gone. That's how it works. Just the same way as when the light is turned on when you're sleeping and then you wake up and the dream's gone. Same thing here. When the truth comes into your mind, you metaphorically wake up and your nightmare is just gone. Where'd it go? Where did what you were dreaming last night go this morning when you woke up? Where'd it go? What happened to it? I don't know. The light came on and it was gone. Okay, that's how it happened. That's how it works. That's the atonement. That's how the atonement works. You allow the light to come in, and the nightmare that could only be dreamt while you are sleeping and while your eyes are closed is just gone. It is just gone. It's shown to be not there. It's shown to have never occurred. What you were dreaming last night, did that really occur? It never really occurred. But Lord knows when you were dreaming it sure seemed real. It seemed completely real. Same thing as the nightmares we're experiencing right now. It's going to be the exact same experience. The truth is going to come into our mind and we're going to go, oh, that never even happened. That was just a dream and it's gone. It was gone. Never occurred, really.
So this is saying that I don't have to figure out my problems or solutions to my problems.
That's exactly right. All you have to do is call to the light that when it comes and dawns upon your mind, will make your nightmares disappear and be gone, and where you realize, oh, and that never really occurred. I was just dreaming it. Just like your nightmares at night.
So my time spent figuring out the solutions to my problems is my miscreation.
That's right.
More time spent miscreating.
That's exactly right. It's just more time spent miscreating. It's just wasted time. Yeah. It's just wanting to keep the nightmares going.
Yeah.
You know, so that your ego can feel alive and remain in control.
You know, and it seems that, you know, what you're saying is just like, okay, something happened 15, 20 minutes ago. If I want to remember it, I can remember it, or keep on remembering it. Or if I want to, I can forget it. You know, and it's like it never happened.
Right.
And another like extension of that is like, you know, you forget that it happened because it's in the past and you're living in the present. You know, if you're living in the present,
That's right.
what happens in the past
Right.
doesn't exist
Right.
anymore because it's not in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the present and you're not in the past.
Right, exactly. And also, to add to that, it's you realize when the light comes, and he's calling the light coming as knowledge or the light being flicked on, when it comes, you do realize that truly what you were seeing was just like he said, a visual misperception or a visual hallucination. And that happens all the time to me. When I come back to my right mind, I realize I literally was seeing what wasn't there and what didn't happen. And I was literally hearing what hadn't been said. You know, so you realize, oh God, I do hallucinate regularly. Wow. I am literally bipolar and schizophrenic regularly. And here I was judging all those schizophrenic bipolar folks in my life. That's me. Hearing things that were never said, seeing things that never happened.
And a murderer with attack thoughts.
And exactly. And then when the light comes, I realize that it really literally was, like you said, a visual misperception. And when you see that, you realize how it can disappear in the twinkling of an eye. Just like your dream, the nightmare you're dreaming when you're asleep in bed, disappears with a twinkling of your eye, your eyes open. Where'd your nightmares go? They disappear. Same thing with these nightmares. Same thing happens. And so I love remembering that the nightmare I'm experiencing tonight, where I think something happened that I should, feel guilty and afraid about, that is something that literally can disappear like that if I will allow the truth to dawn upon my mind. And how do you allow the truth to dawn upon your mind? It's like this. You go, truth! Help! You call to it. That's about it. You call to it. You call to it. And for me that means opening my book and reading it, or saying my workbook lesson the way it said to say it, or remembering anything and applying anything that I heard and hear. Or just simply doing what the Course says and say, Spirit of truth, decide for truth for me. Spirit of peace, decide for peace for me. That's it. When you call to truth, when you call to the light, it comes and it flicks the switch. While you're dreaming, while you're having your nightmare dream. I remember having a realization one time. I was suffering about something, always something, and I had this revelation where I was like, okay, this means I'm sleeping. Have you ever had a dream at night where in the dream you realize you're dreaming? You ever had one of those? Okay, it's kind of like that. And that, he says, and the goal of this curriculum is the awareness of dreaming. And so I was really suffering, and I was like, oh, okay, that means I'm asleep right now, having a nightmare. Okay, that's what's happening. Okay. And then what I'm supposed to do is call to the truth to awaken me. So I just started saying, I am asleep. Truth, please wake me. I am asleep. Please wake me, truth. I am asleep. Please wake me. Please wake me, God. I am sleeping. And it was a miracle. In a twinkling of an eye, it was like, whew, what was that? What was that bad dream I was having? I am asleep. I must be sleeping. Because, why do I know that? Because you only have nightmares when you're asleep. You don't have nightmares when you're awake. Spiritually speaking.
So anytime we're having lack thoughts, we're having a nightmare?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, anytime you're having lack thoughts, anytime you're having anger thoughts, guilt thoughts, sadness thoughts, depressed thoughts, you're dreaming, you're asleep, you're having a nightmare. And you can only have a nightmare if you're dreaming. And you can only be dreaming if you hadn't valued the truth more than the sleeping, right? And so the miracle comes when you're like, ooh, this sucks. I don't value this nightmare and dreaming more than the truth and being awake. And so I'm going to call to truth to wake me. And I'm going to go for truth somehow. I'm going to call to it. Right? All right. Okay. So I'm going to finish up this paragraph, and then we're going to do our integration meditation and go on back out to the lab. All right. So, that's right, the lab. Okay, so the knowledge which illuminates or wakes you up is the knowledge which not only sets you free, but which also shows you clearly that you are free. So, whatever lies you may believe are of no concern to the miracle. Why? Because the miracle can heal any of them with equal ease. The miracle, the truth, the light makes no distinctions among your misperceptions or your problems. The miracle or the light or the truth's sole concern is to distinguish between truth on one hand and all kinds of errors on the other hand. Some miracles may seem to be of greater magnitude than others, but remember the first point in this course, that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. Okay. So, the point of value for me right there is to remember that don't pay attention to the details of my nightmare. Don't get caught up in the details of the nightmare. Who said, she said, he did, and how you would do it, and I know that happened, and right? He says, whatever lies you are believing are absolutely no concern to the miracle or the truth. Truth doesn't care what you've been believing. All it cares is that you've been believing something that's not true because it's hurting you, because you're suffering. You're in a nightmare. It doesn't matter. He's like, I don't care what you've been dreaming. The only thing that truth is concerned about is it true or not? That's it. So I'm not going to pay attention to the form of the nightmare, right? Oh, it's a physical thing? Oh my gosh. Oh, it's a money thing? Oh no. Oh, it's a relational thing? Oh no, that's the worst of all. All the truth is concerned about is it true or not? Is what you're believing right now true or not? Wow, that's all it's concerned about. I love it. And it says, and it's making no distinction among your errors. None. It's not making any distinction among your errors. You're making an error of a cold or you're making the error of cancer. No distinction. No distinction. I don't care if it's a big money problem or we need a money problem, or a big relationship issue or a small relationship issue. The truth makes no distinction whatsoever among the kinds, among your errors. Its sole concern is just to distinguish between truth in one hand and all kinds of errors on the other. Is this truth or is it an error? That's all the truth is looking at. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. I love that. That's such a release from guilt to know that the truth is not going to be itemizing my errors and really looking into my errors. I'm glad. Because they are so convoluted and so complex and so ugly. And the Holy Spirit's like, oh, I don't care. Is it true or not? Is it loving? No, it's not true. That's all we need to know. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't this teacher the most beautiful, loving teacher you could imagine? Mm-hmm. Is it true or not? That's all it cares about. Not what you've been dreaming. Not what you've been mistaken about. Not how you've been mistaken. Just is it true or not? And listen, if it's not true, then all we have to do is go, it's not true. And then it's gone. Wow. When Spirit is allowed to look at your errors and truth goes, is it true? No, it's not. Then it's gone. It's gone in the twinkling of an eye. Because all it was a visual misperception where you were thinking that something that wasn't true, that wasn't real, meaning lasting, was real and lasting. Thought it was true. Beautiful. He says, some miracles may seem to be of greater magnitude than others, but remember the first point in this course, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. The truth is not evaluating the errors as big or small at all. Wow. All right. So, we're going to stop here for tonight. We're going to do our expression, our financial expression of appreciation. Thank you so much for your expressions of appreciation. I appreciate them. The Miracle Center appreciates them. And also, don't forget to check out my website, annikajawa.com, and where you can learn about my holistic counseling practice. I do psychotherapeutic miracle sessions, okay? And you can find out more about these sessions. And in these sessions, we apply the psychology of the course and the beliefs of the course, the principles of the course and the psychology of the course to whatever you're going through, whatever nightmare you're experiencing, to experience a transformation in that area. And you can learn about them at annikajawa.com. I do them all over the country, so call me. All right. Oh yes, and every Wednesday night now I do a prayer and meditation class. So, the purpose of the prayer and meditation class is to learn how to focus our minds. The Course in Miracles says that an undisciplined mind, a mind that doesn't know how to focus, can accomplish nothing. But a disciplined mind, a mind that is trained how to focus, is a mind that can accomplish anything, okay? So we're learning how to train the mind and discipline the mind so that our minds can go from being scattered and split and ineffective and seemingly powerless to us, and we're learning how to focus the mind so that the mind becomes effective and like a laser, like a powerful, effective device for creating what you want to experience, okay? And then after we've done the exercises, the mind-focusing, mind-discipline exercises, then we focus our minds on praying for the planet, praying for the world, which is the same thing as praying for ourselves, but since we've projected ourselves into the world, is time we need to pray for the world. So, and we're learning wonderful new ways to pray for the world. How do you pray for the world? I know I'm supposed to be praying for the world. I get that I am, but what does that mean, right? So, and that's what helps me to not feel overwhelmed by all the different problems in the world, and to feel like weak and powerless, like, well, what can I do, right? I want to feel the power that the truth tells me that I have to save my own world. And I want to experience that. And I want to utilize that. I want to stop believing and pretending that my mind isn't powerful, and that I'm somehow separate from the mind and the soul of the world. And so that's what we're practicing in those sessions. So it's every Wednesday from 7 to 8:30. Sometimes it goes from 7 to 8, sometimes 7 to 8:30. $10 donation suggestion. So there you have it. Every Wednesday.
Where's it at?
And it's in Wheat Ridge. And so if you text me, I will give you directions and give you an address.
Is checks to here or to you for the pocket editions?
To the Miracle Center.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for being here. I deeply, profoundly appreciate it, because this enables me to have the truth come through me, which enables me to really hear it and to use it. And I so needed it tonight. I'm so grateful to you guys for being here. Appreciate you deeply. All right. So now let's do our integration meditation. And the point here, the goal here, is to integrate what we heard, to let it sink from the conscious mind down. Okay, let's see if we can get. I don't think my phone is possessed anymore. We'll see. All right. So I want you to close your eyes and just take a breath. And just breathe. And I want you to tune in to how you feel right now. How do you feel having heard these ideas tonight? And just breathe that feeling in. Let that really just feel, let yourself feel how the truth feels in your mind, in your soul, in your body. And just breathe it in. And anchor that feeling by feeling it and feeling it fully. Beautiful. And now I want you to bring to your awareness whatever nightmare that you have been most recently experiencing. Maybe it's something that you are experiencing today. Maybe it's something you're afraid you might be experiencing. But bring to your awareness whatever nightmare you have been dreaming recently. Beautiful. And now I want you to just tune into that nightmare, how it feels, how it looks for a moment. And I want you to now, in the midst of your nightmare, call upon the light to waken you. And so we begin by saying to ourselves and telling ourselves the truth, I am dreaming. I am asleep. I am asleep, I am dreaming. I know I am because I'm afraid and angry and guilty. I am asleep. And then call upon truth to waken you. Truth, please waken me. Please waken me from this nightmare. Truth, come show me that what I thought was happening never occurred. I haven't changed reality. I haven't changed myself into something unlovable and weak. Truth, awaken me. I want you to just now be open to letting truth show you the truth. Let truth show you what is happening, what is so, what is real in this situation. Truth can never fail to answer that request. And so refuse not to see it and hear it. And if there's another nightmare that you've been dreaming in the last few days, also bring that to your awareness and do the same thing. I am sleeping. I am asleep right now. And I am dreaming a nightmare. Truth, please wake me. And distinguish between the truth and the lies here. Show me what is real. Show me what is really happening. And then whatever the voice for truth has shown you, breathe it in, feel its answer, feel the feelings that come when truth comes and turns on the light and shows you what is going on, where you really are. Beautiful. And to that we say, amen. That's how it's done. We just took what we heard the Course tell us, and we did it. Okay? That's what this Course is. That's what this class is about. Hearing what it says and doing it. Not analyzing it, not arguing with it. Just hearing what it says and do it. Apply it, just like it said. Okay? I appreciate you guys. May the Course be with you. All right. See you next time I see you.